Welcome to this BVTV Global Network Trilogy, coming to you from the UK studios of BizVision. I'm your host, Malcolm Gallagher. I suggest most of us are these days seeking an inner peace, a break from anxiety. That's not a weak thing to want, but actually is, I believe, a demonstration of your inner strength and resolve. This BVTV channel is keen on the word conscience. That's why I'm delighted to welcome you to this trilogy with the author of Your Conscience, the key to unlock limitless wisdom and creativity and solve all of life's challenges. So let's meet Leonard Perlmutter. Hello, Leonard.
Hello. Thank you very much for the invitation. I deeply appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, Leonard, you must have been down lockdown. That beard's grown well, hasn't it?
It has. My mother thanks you and my father thanks you. I really have very little to do with it.
Right. Leonard, as you can imagine, with our deep involvement with our conscious compass, our conscious leadership, and more, I have a lot to ask you, so I'll not waste any time. In episode 3, we'll talk about keeping focused and avoiding butterflying. In episode 2, we'll be talking about avoiding being distracted by challenges. But in episode 1, I'd like you to kindly put conscience and conscious into perspective. Conscious is key today with planet, people, profits, purpose in our mind. But does understanding the scale and the depth of your conscience lead to a state of consciousness?
Yes, it does. The conscience is one of 4 functions of the mind. It's critically important that we all understand that we can't take an action. I cannot even raise my hand without first entertaining a thought. And the mind moves first. That means the body follows. And of course, we know that consequences flow from actions. That's the basis of Newton's third law of motion. And so the conscience is unique among all the 4 functions of the mind in that the conscience is the only function of the mind that can discriminate, determine, judge, and decide. Now that was a game changer for me because it meant to me that every single choice I have ever made in my life and every single choice that I will make in my life has been and always shall be made by the conscience. And the conscience has a unique capacity. Its functioning is like a mirror, and it can reflect super conscious wisdom from the super conscious portion of the mind. Now that might seem like metaphor or poetry, but it's beyond the conscious mind, it's beyond the unconscious mind. It's the same portion of the mind where Paul McCartney hears beautiful melodies and Albert Einstein saw mathematical equations. Doesn't mean that we're going to become songwriters. It doesn't mean we're going to become physicists. What it does mean is the more that you can use your conscience, you can access an intuitive library of wisdom that will suggest to you the thought to think, the word to speak, and the action to take that will always lead you for your highest and greatest good.
Wow. Now, let me ask you then, is that accessible to anybody?
Well, that's a little bit of a tricky question. Yes and no. Every human being has a conscience. However, we have also mentally and emotionally become addicted to the limited perspectives of the other 3 functions of the mind. While the conscience is the only function of the mind that can make a decision, the other 3 are sort of in the category of counselors. They can advise. And these advisors only have limited perspectives. They're often wrong, but they're never in doubt. And that would be the ego, the senses, and the unconscious mind. They're loud, they're pushy, and they're unruly. So if we have given so much attention to the limited perspectives, often faulty, of the ego, senses, and unconscious mind, if we rely on them for the choices that we make, then the conscience will simply rubber stamp that loud noise rather than reflect perfect wisdom from the center of consciousness.
Wow. Yes. Now I'm getting it. I'm getting it clear. So, in this troubled times that we're in, and you and I were discussing before we came on air about the world at this moment in time, this anxiety that's around, this uncertainty, is not going to go away. So, how are you suggesting that your approach, your conscience book, can actually help people through this situation that we're in?
The anxiety that we are all dealing with is energy. We learned in 5th grade energy cannot be created, nor can it be destroyed, but it can be transformed. And that is the key. Through the meditation process, by using our conscience as our guide, we can transform the debilitating and contractive and poisonous forms of this stress and anxiety and transform it into healing energy, an increase in our willpower and an expansion of our creativity that'll bring us to be able to fulfill the purpose of life without pain.
Now, just before we leave episode 1, I'd like to squeeze in a little extra question. Are you suggesting then that meditation is medicine for the mind?
There's no question about it. There's no question about it. Meditation provides us 4 distinct, important skills that we can use 24/7. Just by sitting for 60 seconds every day, we will gain one-pointed attention. We will gain the ability to create a space between stimulus and response, detachment from the stimulus. And that space between stimulus and response provides us freedom to check with our conscience, to access wisdom. And the more that I'm willing to experiment with that wisdom, I'm also in the process of building the muscles of willpower.
Right. Thanks, Leonard. Now, let me remind our audience of your URL, your website, which is obviously, viewers, you can see it on the screen behind me. But for viewers, for listeners, let me spell it out to you. It's all the W's, AmericanMeditation.org. AmericanMeditation.org. Leonard's book, Your Conscience, The Key to Unlock Limitless Wisdom and Creativity and Solve All of Life's Challenges, is published by AMI Publishers, and available at the website as mentioned and on Amazon. Leonard, thanks for a great start to your Conscience Trilogy. We'll build on it over the next 2 episodes as Leonard helps us unlock our conscience. Thanks, Leonard.
Thank you, Malcolm.